So I'm on the Nightingale Arm of the Cromford Canal, and you can see I'm on the edge of a wharf here. And this is the old canal running through. Now this comes from Aqueduct Cottage, which we've covered before, and was Peter Nightingale's house. It's on his property, and he was the great uncle of Florence Nightingale. Anyway, we've covered all of this on a video before, so I'm walking down here for a very good reason, and you might just be able to see some smoke over there. Just below us here is the River Derwent, and this is a major part in today's story. And this obviously is a canal here. So we've got a railway running through here, and there was once an aqueduct here. Now I don't believe this section is going to be replaced. I think this aqueduct probably makes it too costly, really. So back in the days when the Cromford Canal was built, there was a lot of dispute from the mill owners. And they didn't want the Cromford Canal taking water out of the Erewash. So a solution was made, and they decided to open a Butley Reservoir, and they were to pump water from the River Derwent, and they were to only do it from 8 p.m. on a Saturday to 8 p.m. on a Sunday. At that time they would fill the reservoir up, and during the course of the week they could let that water go and fill the canal. And there's the Aqueduct Cottage just there. So last time I was here, you were all desperate to see the pumping station in action, and they do have days in steam. Today's one of them, so they've been very kind to let me come and film. So let's pop over to the Leawood Pump House now. Here we go. You can see the doors open. That's the boilers down there. So in this there's a tunnel basically which runs from the river, and it's 150 yards. It runs under here and goes into the basement where there's a reservoir of water.
So the boilers here were built in 1901, and they replaced the original boilers that were put in when the pump house was first put into operation in 1849. You can see what was there before if you look around and look very carefully up near the roof. You can see pulleys, and you can see a handrail that goes up the side of the wall. So what we can take from that, even though there's no actual written history about this, we can take from that that the boilers that would have been put in place originally would have been either Lancashire or Cornish type boilers, large wrought iron structures which would have taken quite a long time to bring up to steam. The reason that's important is that this pump house could only be used during a 24-hour steaming period once every week, because of the agreements made about abstraction of water from the River Derwent and how it would affect the mills further downstream. So big boilers, slow to heat up, needing firing over several days, was quite an inefficient use of resources. So these boilers you can see here were put in around about 1901. And these are locomotive type boilers. They're fire tube boilers. It means that they can be brought up to steam in the space of a few hours. This is in fact what we've done today to get the engine ready for steaming, as you'll see later. So fire tube boilers, they look a little bit like locomotive boilers, but they're wider because they don't have to fit in the frames of a locomotive. They've got wider, shorter fireboxes, but apart from that, they are the same design as a locomotive boiler. The way they work is the heat and the flames and the combustion gases from the firebox get drawn through the boiler barrel through a matrix of 152 copper fire tubes. So the fire tubes are the heat exchanger to take the combustion gases and energy from them into the water which boil through.
So just up above here, this is the coal shed. Just above here, you can see there's a slight opening on the top of the aqueduct. This is the aqueduct going across here, and that's where they used to drop the coal down, and there would have been a coal chute there, drop down to here, so you could feed the engines in here. And that was used until quite recently. They used to have a boat. They used to bring coal down from Cromford Wharf, which is kind of in that direction up there. But unfortunately the boat sunk, so they don't use it anymore.
So just a brief bit about the history of this place and why it was built. It was built to replace a lost supply of water, which originally came from a system of what we call in Derbyshire called softs, but otherwise would be known as drainage adits, from the lead mines high on Cromford Moor. So a little bit of history. Lead was mined by the Romans, but lead would have been extracted before that time. The Romans would have been attracted to come to this area because of their understanding of the availability of lead, which was needed for the aqueducts of Rome. And there's proof that's actually in the British Museum in the 1700s. There was an ingot of lead found on Cromford Moor, and that was dated Augustan, so we can say that to be around about the 200 AD era, and on the other side of the ingot it said Lutidurum, which is widely acknowledged to be the Roman term or Roman name for the town of Wirksworth, which became a major centre of lead mining in the Middle Ages. After the Romans left, lead mines started to be dug as we would expect to see them, with mine shafts and what are called levels, where they were digging into the different strata of the rock at varying but increasing depths under the level of Cromford Moor. But they encountered a problem, and that problem was water table. So the lead mines become flooded, and the extraction of ore, this very lucrative trade, could continue until the soft system was developed from the 1600s onwards. And that soft system extended eventually to 3.5 miles of subterranean tunnels under Cromford Moor, draining a constant supply of water at a constant temperature. And that part is important because around that time, right up into the very early Victorian era, Northern Europe was going through the Little Ice Age. And the Little Ice Age is where all these picture cards that you see of Christmas cards with people skating on village ponds, which are a reflection of the fact that open water froze solid as a matter of course during winter months. But the subterranean water coming from Cromford Soft never froze. It has a constant temperature of around about 15 degrees centigrade. And that constant flow of water is what attracted Arkwright to build Cromford Mill, that archetypal first industrial process of milling and spinning and weaving cotton. So he was attracted by that constant supply of water. The canal got a little bit of that when that was built later on, in the later 1700s, and everything went fine until the lead mines needed to go deeper. And at that point, a new system of softs was started off in the late 1700s to drain directly into the River Derwent. Locally, this soft system is called Meerbrook Soft, and even to this day now drains between 11 and 19 million gallons of water every day, and it's this network of tunnels over 4.5 miles long, extending almost as far as Wirksworth. So the problem that Arkwright found with this, and the problem that the canal knew was going to happen, was that by draining water to lower level, the Cromford Softs would be drained dry. Arkwright went to court, and if you think about his wealth in terms of the size of the economy as it was then, he would have been a multi-billionaire in today's terms. So he goes in all lawyered up to a precursor to the High Court in London called the Court of Pleas, and he makes his case that he had a right of precedence to the waters from Cromford Soft, and anyone depriving him of that would be doing him injury. The judiciary went away, and they came back with a landmark verdict which still stands today. And that landmark verdict is that no one has an exclusive right to a natural resource. So he lost his case. Meerbrook Soft, which in order to be closed off by a lower court, was opened up. He had to close his mill. The canal lost its supply of water. At that point, a pumping station was proposed. But the problem was, further downstream from where we are in Cromford, at Belper, another wealthy industrialist by the name of Josiah Strutt, he went to court to try to get this pumping station stopped from being opened, and it was agreed at that point in time this case could go no further because the precedent had already been set. He did not have an exclusive right to the water of the Derwent. So instead he was told to go and negotiate. And the negotiated settlement was water could be extracted, but only during the one 24-hour period between 8 o'clock in the evening on a Saturday and 8 o'clock in the evening on a Sunday, when his mills were idle, when the workers had their Sabbath break. But what wasn't agreed was how much water could be taken out. And as a result, this pumping station, this pumping engine, was built to the largest possible size. To give you an idea of the scale of it, working flat out with both boilers operating, it can take out every minute 32 tons of water, which is roughly the payload of an average British road tanker.
This is the exhaust pump below here, and also you've got a condenser cylinder just below, and this is kind of one of the arms that comes up to the main. You can see the top piston rod, which we'll go up to in a second. So what you can see now is the piston rod dropping down, and this is caused by steam being forced through a valve into the top and pushing the paddle down. And that valve then closes and another valve opens, and that allows the gravity from the ballast to pull the plunger back down, and that transfers the steam then through down into a condenser underneath, like I said, and that contracts the steam, and that then aids in the pulling of the bottom of the plunger back down, and the condenser allows it to be a much more efficient system. So the ballast is what pulls the water up from the River Derwent up into the canal, and what happens is this ballast lifts and is pulled up by the arm, which is run by the steam engine on the other side, and that pulls water up from underneath under the grating through a valve, which is like a non-return valve. As it pulls it up, the ballast comes right to the top, and then the ballast drops, and what that does is then pushes, it can't go back down through that non-return valve, it comes up through another valve, and that pumps it up to the canal, which we'll go up and see the outlet in a second. So this ballast is an incredible 15 tonnes, is lifted by the engine that we've just seen and drops down via gravity. And as I said, this allows 4 tonnes per stroke of water. You get 9 strokes per minute, which is 39,000 tonnes of water every 24 hours. This was just such an incredible piece of equipment because they could only do 1 day a week. So if you remember from my last video, I said the outlet was here, which is correct, and you can actually see it now. Look, you can see a wave comes up, so the outlet is below the water level, so every time it pumps, it pushes up through, and you can see the wave go out into the canal. There we go. It's an incredible amount of water. You have a spillway just over the other side there as well, as I said, and then you're into, there's a wharf just up here, and then you're into the High Peak Railway, which goes across there. So a lovely area here. If you didn't watch my last video, I'll link it in the description. It's definitely worth a watch. This whole area is just bustling with history. I'm not going to get the drone up today, so the footage is from the last time I was here, but you can see the chimney smoking well now.
We're now on the beam floor. The beam is made from cast iron and weighs approximately 27 tonnes. Each half is identical, and each half is also equipped with James Watt's parallel motion to provide a straight line motion for the pump and for the steam cylinder. Each end is also equipped with catch links which prevent overstroking. We're often asked how on earth did they get the speed up here, and we think we're about the same level as we have the towpath. So, in all probability, they built a ramp across from the towpath, across to the building here, and put the beam in before the building was complete.
So this beam is massive, it's 33 foot long, and it's supported on this wall down here. So these are huge blocks that are built all the way through, all the way down, and then you've got some timbers, which are the existing timbers, run sideways. They are supporting the roof. This is new. They've got steels in here. You might be able to see on the camera, they're cladded. The smaller beams aren't. They are new, but they had issues with rotting in the wall. They had to replace the guttering, and these have been plated off to just support the roof. But everything else that's supporting all the winch and pulleys and stuff is actually RSJs in behind. But these bolts here go all the way down, sorry, those ones there go all the way down through. They're drilled right through, all the way to the floor, and they go below the engines and stuff. And that's drilled through a stone block by hand, and it's a perfect line all the way down through it. So this thing costs about 500 a day, maybe a bit more, depends on the price of coal to run. So if you ever want to come and visit it, they do take donations, or I will put links where you can make donations. So if you want to contribute towards this, it'll be fantastic. I will be making one myself. But I'll leave that here. It's been an absolutely fantastic day over here recording. Have a great day.